When most Narnia fans hear the name Aslan, something remarkable happens. At the mere mention of the lion's name, their hearts are filled with a sudden sense of affection, joy, boldness, or strength. Aslan is, after all, the embodiment of goodness. He's the High King, the sovereign, and none who call themselves true friends of Narnia have anything to fear. For friends of Aslan, to be in his presence is to be perfectly and 100% safe. But is that really true? Do followers of Aslan really have nothing to fear when Aslan is near? Today, we'll try to answer that question as we look at the lives of talking horses, dragons, and kings and queens of Narnia. So let's get started. It's time to leave our world behind and step into a world that's more real than our own. It's time to follow me into the wardrobe. Is Aslan safe? That's the question asked by Lucy during one of the most famous exchanges in all of the stories of Narnia. On a dark, snowy night, the Pevensey children have just heard the great lion's name spoken for the first time by Mr. Beaver as he whispers, "Aslan is on the move." At the name of Aslan, each one of the children felt something jump inside. Edmund felt a sensation of mysterious horror. Peter felt suddenly brave and adventurous. Susan felt as if some delicious smell or some delightful strain of music had just floated by her. And Lucy got the feeling you have when you wake up in the morning and realize it's the beginning of the summer holidays. Each child knew that this Aslan was something incredibly special, but it was Lucy who boldly asked the question. Is he a man?" asked Lucy. "Aslan a man," said Mr. Beaver sternly. "Certainly not. I tell you, he's the High King of the Wood and the son of the great Emperor beyond the sea. Don't you know who is the King of Beasts? Aslan is a lion, the great lion." "Ooh," said Susan. "I thought he was a man. Is he quite safe? I should feel rather nervous about meeting a lion." "That you will, dearie, and no mistake," said Mrs. Beaver. "If there's anyone who can appear before Aslan without their knees knocking, they're either braver than most or else just silly." "Then he isn't safe?" said Lucy. "Safe?" said Mr. Beaver. "Don't you hear what Mrs. Beaver tells you? Who said anything about safe? Of course he isn't safe. But he's good. He's the king, I tell you." Of course, Mr. Beaver was right. Aslan wasn't safe. He certainly wasn't safe to Jadis the White Witch. And she knew it deep within her soul. When she first laid eyes on the great lion, at the actual moment of Narnia's creation, she knew it. While Diggory and Polly were mesmerized by Aslan's creation song, Jadis was terrified. "This is a terrible world," said the witch. "We must fly, at once." When Aslan came even nearer, she fell into a panic, throwing an iron bar and running into the distance in a shriek. It was nearly 1,000 years later, at the first Battle of Baruna, that she would once again gaze upon Aslan with, as Lucy would later describe it, a look of terror and amazement. Aslan had let out a great roar that shook all of Narnia from the western lamppost to the shores of the eastern sea, and suddenly flinging himself upon Jadis, the witch was dead in an instant. For Jadis, Aslan was not safe. Of course, many of Aslan's enemies would testify to the fact that Aslan wasn't safe. No soul could ever stand against this great beast and not tremble in fear. But there's something odd that Mr. Beaver had said on that snowy night. He didn't say Aslan wasn't safe for his enemies. He said Aslan wasn't safe. Period. Not for Lucy or Susan or Peter or Mrs. Beaver or Mr. Tumnus or anyone. Aslan wasn't safe for Aravis either. She and her horse Hwin first encountered Aslan as they were making flight across the great desert to the kingdom of Archenland in order to warn them of the approaching invasion of the Calormen army. As they ran with all their might, suddenly they heard a great snarling roar, and looking back, saw a huge lion chasing after them, growing nearer every second. As the huge beast began snapping at Hwin's heels, she found a new burst of speed that she didn't know she had. Still, the lion kept pace, and then, rising on its hind legs, it swiped at Aravis' shoulders, covering her back in blood. After the invading army was defeated and all was well, Aslan explained that his chasing helped the group move faster to arrive in time to sound the alarm. More importantly, Aravis was given her wounds, tear for tear and drop for drop, to help her understand the pain that she had inflicted on her stepmother's slave. The wounds were there to help Aravis learn empathy, to stand up for the oppressed. They were given for her own good. You see, Aslan isn't safe, but he's good. Aslan wasn't safe for Eustace either. One night, after turning into a great and terrible dragon, Eustace saw in the moonlight a huge lion coming slowly towards him. And even though he was a powerful dragon, he was afraid. Eventually, the lion began to rip and tear at Eustace's skin, peeling away scale after scale. It was the worst, most excruciating pain Eustace had ever felt in his life. After he had finished, the lion caught hold of Eustace, painfully throwing him into a large well of water. But when he emerged, Eustace had become a boy once again. And Eustace understood. The lion had done it all for his own good. You see, Aslan isn't safe, but he's good. Aslan wasn't safe for Peter either. When Peter met Aslan face to face for the first time at Aslan's camp, which would later become Aslan's How, the entire camp was startled by a cry for help from Susan's horn. Susan was trapped by a vicious wolf as big as a bear. It was Maugrim, the leader of Jada's secret police. When the creatures of the Narnian army attempted to help, Aslan held them back, forcing Peter to go and face the deadly Maugrim alone. Maugrim attacked Peter in a flash of fangs and fur, blood, heat, and hair. It was something like a confused nightmare. But when it was over, Peter had found a huge wolf laid dead beside him, stabbed through the heart with Peter's sword. Did Aslan put Peter in danger that day? Yes, absolutely. But Aslan allowed Peter to fight alone so that he could earn his spurs. For that day, he was knighted Sir Peter Wolfsbane. More importantly, he was taught important lessons that would be crucial to him in his future role as High King of Narnia. Aslan had sent Peter into danger on his own for Peter's own good. You see, Aslan isn't safe, but he's good. There are seemingly unending examples to be found throughout the history of Narnia of cases where Aslan either directs people into the path of danger or inflicts danger on them himself. Whether it's sending a horse to fly to faraway places on new and unfamiliar wings, or commanding 2 children and a marshwiggle to travel to dangerous giant-infested lands, or appointing a London cabbie and his wife to serve as ruler and protector of a new and unknown world. If you meet Aslan, you can be sure danger is on its way. And when you think about it, moving people from a place of safety to a place of danger is what discovering Narnia is all about. Every time a person was brought to the world of Narnia, they were moved from a place of comfort to a place of uncertainty. Whether it was hiding in a wardrobe in a country mansion, refuge from the war, sitting in a quiet bedroom staring at a picture, or riding a train with siblings on the way to boarding school, Aslan didn't just open the doorway to the land of Narnia, he created a pathway that led directly to danger. So no, Aslan isn't safe. But we must remember the second half of that famous saying. Aslan isn't safe, but he's good. And that's the point. Every trial, every battle, every journey, every adventure, Aslan meant for the good of those he called to action. Because safety is stagnation, stillness, and ultimately death. But in every challenge lies the opportunity to change, to become greater than you were before, and ultimately, to join in the work of Aslan and see him face to face. And in the end, that's the point of it all, isn't it? So no, Aslan isn't safe, but he's good. He's the king, I tell you. Well, that does it for today's tour, but we've still got many more worlds to explore, from the lands beyond the western woods to the mysterious waters at the edge of the world and everywhere in between. If you want to join us for our next trip into the wardrobe, be sure to subscribe to this channel. And if you like this video, hit the thumbs up and leave a comment below. Let us know what your favorite destination is in the land of Narnia or in worlds beyond. Be sure to join us next time as we take another journey into the wardrobe.